We all know that Michael Jackson was a Virgo sun, born on August 29th, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, United States. But what people don't often talk about is his moon in Pisces, which relates to his relationship to his family, his mother, his emotions, his Mercury in Leo, which relates to his relationship to his siblings, his aunts and uncles, his cousins, nieces and nephews, but also his thoughts and how he communicated. What people also don't talk about is his Saturn in Sagittarius, which relates to his work ethic, his career, his professional status, as well as his relationship to his father. So let's talk about Michael Jackson's childhood. As a moon in Pisces, Michael Jackson had a mother that was very nurturing. With a moon in Pisces, depending on the placement of his moon in Pisces and his houses in his natal chart, he may have had a mother that was also nurturing of the side of himself that he didn't readily show to others, or that he wasn't comfortable with himself with, or his mother may have not condoned or even negated, disapproved of certain parts of Michael Jackson. We have to remember that Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so Neptune rules illusions and confusions. Neptune rules private affairs, our hidden strengths and weaknesses. Neptune also rules Hollywood. Neptune also rules escapism. So it's maybe very often that Michael Jackson wanted to escape his emotions with his moon in Pisces, especially as a young child. But in certain cases, maybe Michael wanted to also escape from his mother, the one person that Michael felt he could depend on. Could be that the mother was a source of pain. Pisces can attract user energy. Pisces is very open, very honest, open-hearted. But I'm feeling maybe the mother, not so much. There was some confusion there in the relationship with the mother and Michael Jackson, I think, with his moon in Pisces. There were some boundaries that blurred. Are you my mother, or are you my stage mother? Are you my manager? One minute you're praising me for my amazing work and you're nurturing the emotional parts of myself, but the other side, you are disapproving of, certain parts of myself. Certain parts of myself you're causing me to hide even further those parts of myself with that moon in Pisces. And its worst trait, of course. Pisces is also a very inspiring kind of energy, so it could be very well that Michael was also inspired by his mother in a lot of ways. Emotionally, here we have the moon in Pisces. So I would say also his mother was probably, the one person that could get him really, pumped up and revved up and really get him to see his true self, I could see Michael when he was sad or upset, his mother coming to him and say, Michael, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you are so talented, it's going to be okay, kind of like the hero, the saving grace. Pisces kind of has that hero victim mentality, sometimes. And I think Michael definitely had that, where he both felt like the victim and the hero at the same time. It's safe to say that Michael had a soft spot for his mother with his moon in Pisces. Now, Pisces, as I've talked about in my previous podcast, by the way, I'm LAMARR Townsend. I'm an astrologer and a psychic tarot reader. So if you would be interested in a reading from me, I read birth charts as well as tarot cards. I'm a psychic tarot reader as well, so I channel energy. So check out my website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com, if you're new to my podcast. Also, be sure to check out my YouTube channel, Lamar Townsend Tarot on YouTube. Also on Instagram and Facebook, Lamar Townsend Tarot as well. But with his moon in Pisces, Pisces can suffer from abuse, but can also be predisposed to abuse, but also can be exposed to abuse. I believe in the home, Michael's parents, I think his dad did abuse his mom. I think Michael saw that growing up in the home. And in certain ways, maybe Michael saw his mother as weak. Now we have to also keep in mind that Michael's sun is in opposition to his moon. So Michael often struggled with his image, his public persona, what he was expected to be with that sun in Virgo, especially in 6 degrees, according to what I'm looking at. But of course, give or take. But I would say, especially at a young age, there's something where Michael quickly realized, and as a young child, that he had to live up to a certain standard with that sun in Virgo. Virgo's ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules communication, intellect, and the mind. Mercury, as we've talked about in season 1, episode 2 of this podcast, also rules our childhood. So it's no wonder that Michael's childhood was such an important focus, an important part of his life, even when he was an adult. You can also see why he didn't have necessarily a childhood. With his Mercury in Leo, his talent got exploited as a young child. We've talked about that in season 1, episode 2 of this podcast as well. Your childhood and the planet Mercury. That's the name of the episode. Check it out on my podcast. But with Michael's Mercury in Leo, he was exploited as a child. As we talked about, Mercury rules our young childhood to young adult years. Those really pertinent years, those teenage, awkward years, those early 20s, still figuring yourself out years. Michael had his Mercury in Leo. And during that entire time, as we've seen, Michael was exploited, abused, and used during that entire Mercury phase of his life. That was when Michael was in his quote-unquote prime. We've never seen Michael, such electrified and on fire as during his Mercury in Leo phase. But then there comes a turning point with that Saturn in Sagittarius. See, Saturn likes to instrict, rules on us. Saturn instills fear in us. Saturn is about repetition and routine. Not worrying about your feelings, setting your feelings aside and getting the job done. Saturn rules the father, the relationship to the father. So it's interesting with his Saturn in Sagittarius, Michael Jackson, we see his relationship to his father was very chaotic, to say the least. Here we have Saturn in fire. But we have Saturn in fire that has no rules or regulations or restrictions, and sometimes can play dirty. Sagittarius. So that would explain, I feel like, Michael's father when it came to Michael, Joe Jackson. Jupiter, Sagittarius' traditional ruler in astrology, rules expansion. It rules open-mindedness. It rules the taboo. Jupiter rules higher education, higher learning, our personal philosophies and beliefs. So it's safe to say that Michael's father did expand and build on a lot of Michael's philosophies and beliefs, all right, as he became an adult, especially as a father himself, for the good or bad, and we saw that too. Whereas, for example, Michael was exploited. Michael, found through his own soul searching and that Saturn and Sagittarius vibe that he wasn't going to do the same to his children. His beliefs and his philosophies, as he grew to find himself, not only within himself but also in his career, formed the basis and the foundation that I'm not going to exploit my children. And for all intents and purposes, Michael didn't exploit his children. That's debatable. In certain ways he did, and in certain ways he didn't. But what we can say about Michael is because of his father and what his father put him through as a young child in regards to his career. Because Michael's father did play a big part in his career. Especially if Joe Jackson's birth date is, or his zodiac sign is actually Sagittarius. I'm going to look that up really quickly. You can look it up too with me. Joe Jackson zodiac sign. If he's either in Sagittarius or if he's a fire sign.